It's going back quite a number of years when Paul and I were preparing for training college. Paul was working 2 jobs to help us save up the money that we needed. We'd recently had a baby, so I'd had some time off work. But on top of that, Paul was also in this bit of a cyclic illness thing where he would be sick and then he'd be well, and then he'd be sick, then he'd be well. And I was at church one night and I really felt God say to me really clearly and audibly, Paul has to give up his second job. Paul contacted his second employer and said, thanks, it's been great, but it's time to end. And it was a significant thing for us because he was earning about $100 a week in that job. We listened to a radio station back then that had a loyalty card, and they put a thing out over the air saying if your loyalty card is between this number and this number, first caller through wins $900. And Paul was like, oh, my number's in there. So he rang up and he actually got through and he won $900. And that was 9 weeks' salary from the second job. About 2 weeks later, we rocked up to church and a couple came up to us and said, my wife's grandma has recently passed away and got an inheritance, and God told us we need to give the inheritance, the tithe of that inheritance to you for training college. And we were just like, oh my gosh, because that was a significant gift as well. And we're like, oh, this is really awesome. God's providing, this is great. And then there was nothing. And there was nothing, and there was nothing for several months. When I had come back from work after having our eldest son, we had already decided what date I would resign from the bank in order to move into training college. And 5 weeks before that date was coming, I finally got notification from the bank that I would be accepted for voluntary redundancy. My final date that they gave me was the exact date I had planned a year ago to resign. They had given me a date that clocked me over 5 years of service, which meant they had to give me pro rata long service leave. And ultimately, we ended up with exactly the amount of money that we needed to go to training college. And what that said to me is that even when you can't see how it's going to happen, God is always going to provide. And we've just relied on that for our entire officership, that no matter what the situation is, God is just always going to provide.